Dear Mike, congratulations! You've been promoted from video binge to dancing monkey. Now do a video on some anime, you disgusting weeaboo!
Here we go. Life isn't easy. There are cruel realities we face as human beings that keep us grounded or locked into a cyclical lifestyle. Day in and day out, we repeat the same steps in hopes of going somewhere we may never reach, and I think for a lot of us, we feel like we're simply spinning the wheel to watch it go. But what if you could go back? What if you could change the small mistakes you made and optimize your potential outcomes? What would you sacrifice to do that? The idea of changing the past has been a consistent desire of the human mind since it became self-aware, but these impossible wants are nothing but stories, fabrications we fantasize about during idle moments in the day. The accumulation of human experience breeds an endless amount of stories. There's over 7 billion of us on the planet. That's 168 billion hours of individual experience, untold stories every day. However, one of the most beautiful things about humans is our ability to take experience and turn it into creation. My fascination with this concept has turned to a bit of an obsession with consuming media. So instead of simply watching something, absorbing it, and moving on, I think it's time to recycle it into something new. So I'm going to tell you why you should watch ReZero, Starting Life in Another World. The story of ReZero is the story of Natsuki Subaru, a lost and broken boy. Something you wouldn't know right away. Internally, he's full of self-doubt and fear, but on the surface, he has a fierce determination to make things right, a pig-headedness and youthful resilience that keeps him going when others would simply collapse. Written by Teppei Nagatsuki and illustrated by Shinichiro Otsuka, it's possible that due to it being adapted from a web series turned light novel helped in the realization of ReZero's universe. But as the show progresses, it becomes increasingly apparent that there's more under the surface than you could possibly imagine from the outset. ReZero plays off the increasingly common isekai or in another world trope you can see displayed across any anime streaming site, but it also deconstructs it in a way that is immediately refreshing. Isekai anime usually revolves around a protagonist, generally a young male who is inexplicably dragged into another world from Japan to fulfill a role in some Dungeons and Dragons or video game themed scenario. Often they're gifted with a magic item that makes them super OP or some special power that makes them unique and special. However, Natsuki arrives in Lugnika, a fantasy world of witches, demi-humans, heroes, and villains with a flip phone that barely works and a cup of ramen. He's lost and alone and out of his natural environment, his bedroom. Now, when I think back to my favorite stories, universe is an overlapping theme. Star Wars was my first love. I was so engrossed that when the movies ran out, because there was only 3 back then, I desperately hung onto the characters by tearing through every book I could find post Return of the Jedi. However, the only reason these books could exist is because of the universe that Lucas built in his films. Luke, Leia, and Han aren't simply characters going through motions to feed the plot. They were people in a much larger picture, playing a role in an overarching narrative that extended into everyone and everything it came in contact with. I'm sure you remember the cantina on Mos Eisley.
You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Every single Muppet in that place has a name, their own story, their own species, and a world they called home. Grand Moff Tarkin is a hugely important character in the larger story of Star Wars, and the guy gets like 20 lines in the movie. It's the worlds, the environments, and the minor characters who hold up heroes and villains that make stories great. It's one of the reasons I enjoy Japanese entertainment as much as I do. We've gone into it in Treesicle videos, but the Japanese have a completely different way of looking at the world compared to people in the West. It's a vision that I find mesmerizing and beautiful. Studio Ghibli are masters of creating immersive, fantastic worlds that leave you desperately wanting more time to explore. Just a few more minutes to get to know it all a little bit better before the credits roll. ReZero is like this. Moments within larger moments revolving around a singular existence and all that it touches. Unfortunately, the thing that makes Natsuki Subaru special is his ability to die again and again and again. Something he feels and experiences every time it happens, and ReZero makes sure you feel it too. but why he dies is quintessential to the core of his character. His first day in another world is spent getting beat up by street thugs until he's saved by a young half-elf named Emilia, who introduces herself under the guise of Satella. She's after something special that was stolen from her, but stops not only to save, but also heal Natsuki after he gets that beehole stomped in. Believing he was brought to Lugnica for a higher purpose, because, that's how isekai anime is supposed to go, he immediately attaches himself to Emilia, promising to get her item back. Throughout his first day, Subaru is taken with his new world and shown the magic that exists there. That is, until the pair reach their destination and Natsuki faces the cruel reality of his new environment. Upon entering a loot house alone in a showy maneuver to impress Emilia, he steps into a pool of blood and is greeted by a butchered shopkeep. The tone switches immediately from lighthearted young love to absolute dread. Natsuki is instantly gutted as his blood splatters over the interior. He lies bleeding out on the floor, and Emilia comes looking for him, inevitably suffering the same fate. In one moment, the fragility of the characters and the violence of Lugnica are intertwined and unveiled. This isn't a story of an invincible hero who lucks out of every situation and always rises to the occasion. This is a story of a lost, vulnerable young man with no skills and no way to defend himself or those he cares about. A story about the severity of consequences. Each choice Subaru makes, every word he utters could result in his death, the death of someone he cares about, or cause irrevocable damage to a relationship he needs to survive in a world he doesn't belong in. And the only way to find out if what he's doing is right is to let it play out to the often bitter end. Subaru and Emilia bleed out and die alone, never realizing what the future could hold for either of them, left there to rot in a dirty pawn shop in the bad side of town like rodents in the wall. Then Subaru awakens in the exact same place and time he entered Lugnica, confused and traumatized. He quickly learns that he's been given another chance, but also that things never happen the same way twice, and though he remembers everything, nobody else does and never will. Part of Subaru's return from death is the inability to speak about it. If he tries, he risks his own life or the life of the listener. This completely isolates him, requiring him to shoulder his burden, figure out how to survive, accomplish his goals, and protect those he cares about completely alone. This inevitably leads to mistakes, and those mistakes inevitably lead to death. Now, isekai anime is often inspired by or plays off of video games or video game tropes, usually RPGs, but ReZero, if you were to ask me, brings to mind two of my favorite games: The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and Dark Souls. Like the chosen undead of Dark Souls, Natsuki is forced to learn through death and return to a specified save point, arming himself with only the knowledge and experience of each attempt in order to eventually overcome his trials. It's why the undead are feared in Dark Souls. As long as they maintain sanity, they will inevitably overcome any obstacle in their path, simply by failing upwards endlessly, by learning from death. However, also like Dark Souls, Natsuki risks losing his mind from the trauma of death and loss of hope. Hollowing, something he comes precariously close to multiple times throughout the 25-episode run. First in the mansion after his 5th restart while desperately trying to save its inhabitants, and again later actually becoming catatonic for a while. Like the undead, Natsuki's only hope is to hold on to his goal of protecting those he cares about, to keep from descending into madness. As for Majora's Mask, if you've played the game, it should be obvious. The backtracking through time, the repeating things in cycles, learning about the world and the characters around you through trial and repeated experience is also a core component of the narrative of ReZero, as is the ever-looming threat of annihilation hanging over you like a raised fist. The core of ReZero is its two grand overarching themes: burden and love. Every character in the story has a cross to bear. Subaru must keep his return by death, the possible futures he witnesses, and his desperation and fear to himself. Emilia is a contestant for the throne of Lugnica who must deal with racism and hatred because of her half-elf blood and appearance. Wilhelm van Austria carries the loss of his wife, which he blames on himself. Roswell, Beatrice, the Oni sisters, Puck, all of these characters have stories and pain that are buried so deep in the history of the world of ReZero that you don't even get into most of it until about 80 chapters into Arc 4 of the web series. But for now, let's spotlight Ram and Best Girl Rem and Love, and you'll get what I'm talking about here. Rem and Ram are twin Oni sisters and maids to Roswell in the mansion where Natsuki stays after he eventually rescues Emilia's royal insignia from the boa hunter who served him his first death. During his first week at the mansion, Subaru does his best to find his place there while mysteriously dying at the end of the week. While he does this, he continues to grow relationships with Emilia, Rem, Ram, and the library lolly Beatrice. Unfortunately, only Natsuki holds the memories of each week, and his comfort and accumulated knowledge of the mansion serves only to breed suspicion as the weeks continue to rewind each time he mysteriously dies. Rem and Ram are the caretakers of this mansion, and while seemingly aloof, they are consistently on guard due to the secrets the mansion hides and their pact with its owner, Roswell. Subaru is an anomaly. He's an intruder on their lives and a threat to their duties of protecting their master and each other. The bond the two sisters have is built on a symbiotic relationship spawned from a past trauma. Demon twins were said to be a curse, but Ram was so powerful with Oni magic from birth that her and her sister's lives were spared. Ram grew up admired, talented, and gifted with extraordinary wind magic, leaving Rem feeling worthless, but also indebted to her sister for her life. Rem simply resolved herself to walk behind Ram and to love her until the night their village was attacked by the witch cult. Ram did everything she could to protect the village in vain. Everyone was slaughtered. In a last-ditch attempt to save a helpless Rem, Ram's horn, her access to her miraculous power that was her entire identity, was broken off. In that moment, Rem smiled and thought, finally. This simple thought, this slip of jealousy and relief that arose within Rem at her sister's expense, traumatized her. It's such a human thing. We have all had an evil thought that disgusted us, maybe even scared us, possibly made us question who we truly are. In reality, these thoughts are just our brains processing information. A brain's job is to think, just like your nose's job is to smell. Sometimes you smell bad things, and sometimes you think bad things. Neither of them are of more consequence than the other. It's the actions you take that are what define you. But Rem, like many of us, could not let go of what she thought in Ram's darkest moment, and spent the following years trying to atone for something she never really did. It's for this that she kills Subaru. Subaru lives weeks, from his perspective at least, at the mansion, trying to work as another servant there like Rem and Ram. The sisters teach him how to do his job, how to read and write. And each time he dies, he becomes closer and closer to them. But each time he dies, the sisters re-meet him anew. Eventually, his familiarity with the mansion and his duties leads Rem to see him as a threat. She intervenes in order to protect her sister. As Subaru lays on the ground, his life being beaten out of him by a friend, he begs Rem to remember, asks her why she always leaves him behind, and then dies by her hand, and wakes up in front of her again to start another week. Natsuki's true nature shines brightest in his refusal to give up after a betrayal. Despite being beaten to death with an impossibly large flail, his relationship with Rem and Ram is ultimately more important to him. He realizes that despite his failures in that scenario, he can still prove himself trustworthy to the two. He can use his return by death for another chance, and he does. After tracking down the cause of his repeated deaths in the mansion, Subaru and Rem find themselves in a life-threatening situation in which he sacrifices himself to save her, building a bond of trust. For this, a death curse is placed on Subaru by witch beasts in the forest. The only way to break the curse is to kill them all. With little time left to save Subaru, Rem sets out to do just that. Knowing the impossibility and enormity of this task, Subaru abandons self-preservation to rescue Rem from herself. Luckily, Roswell shows up and saves the day, but not before Subaru saved Rem once again, proving his loyalty to both sisters. After the event, Rem watched over Subaru in his sleep, leading to a breakdown in which she reveals her self-loathing and insecurities to him. He tells her for the first time in her life that she is inherently good, and that while she believes herself a replacement for her broken sister, nobody could replace her. Subaru says that he is also weak, and together they can hold each other up and laugh about the future, hand in hand, and Rem falls in love with Subaru. Natsuki is in love with Emilia, but holds an incomparable place in his heart for Rem from that moment onward. Without spoiling it for newcomers, Natsuki suffers later humiliation and cracks his relationship with Emilia, leaving him with self-loathing and embarrassment, which he tries to rectify immaturely by running to a rescue he could never hope to accomplish. After failing and dying multiple times, he breaks down and attempts to flee forever with Rem, who has continued to stick by him relentlessly. He begs her to be with him, to start a life together out of the way in another country. He pulls at her heart and her innermost desires, tempting her with what she truly wants the most, which is to be with Subaru. But she says she can't, leading into one of the most beautiful, articulate, and emotional monologues I've ever had the pleasure to experience. Rem speaks of her dreams of a future with Subaru in loving detail, how she has it all worked out in her head. Like a teenager in love, she speaks about their house and their work and their possible children and a perpetual joy through their bond. She explains how she dreams about this every day and wants nothing more than to go with him. But at the same time, she takes Subaru's words and shoves them back down his throat. They should laugh about the future together. Subaru tries to hold on to Rem's desires in an attempt to sway her, but is rebuked when Rem says that this is not the kind of person that he is. That he is truly incapable of giving up. That it's against his nature to forget about anyone, and that's why she loves him. Subaru tries to reject her kind words. He admits that he's greedy and arrogant and worst of all, lazy, that he wasted his whole life hiding in his room and leeching off of his parents' love, that he wants everything but his choices only lead to more death. But Rem counters with talk about little things, the way he touches her hair, how he looks when he sleeps, the things that truly make him who he is to her. The things that she truly loves. Love and burden. While we walk through life looking out a window with a view that only we can see, we're surrounded by others with a different view. While we hold the weight of our choices, our losses and our failures, and even disdain for who we think we are, others are always helping to lift the millstones around our necks. The human experience isn't simply yours, but a conglomeration of the experiences around you as a whole. You aren't simply who you perceive yourself to be. Every single person has made mistakes. Every single person has a reason to hate themselves. In my eyes, every person has a reason to be loved. These aren't things you can see yourself. Why you're loved is not up to you. It's not for you. There are people I love that I hate, that I never want to see again. There are people who love me for reasons I can't comprehend. People who, in my eyes, barely know me. With these feelings comes burden. Love is a weight. It comes with guilt, responsibility, and the fear of loss, but without it, we have no connection. It's uncontrollable and incomprehensible. Your job, your money, your looks, the things that you own are not why you're loved. Maybe it's the way your eyes wrinkle when you smile. Maybe it's the way you hold your hands when you talk. Maybe it's the thing that you hate the most about yourself. Maybe it's simply because you and another exist. But why you're loved is not for you to understand. It's for everyone else. It's why love can't be explained simply by talking about it. It's just something you feel. The range of emotion between Natsuki and Rem in this scene alone is worth 1,000 hours of waiting. It's deeply touching and expertly crafted to completely immerse you in the struggles of both of these characters and the feelings they not only have for each other but also themselves. This moment is so zoomed in, everything else disappears. The entire world of Lugnica is nothing. The only thing that matters in this moment is these two characters and their feelings for one another. To be able to take a world so intricately crafted and complex and make it instantly disintegrate into the background without the viewer noticing is an incredible literary feat and exposes the mastery of the storytelling in this epic. ReZero is a gory isekai anime. It takes place in a universe where magic is real, demons, witches, and demi-humans exist. It's a beautiful and brutal environment with intricate politics, class systems, and a rich history. But more importantly, its themes scale from the micro to the macro level with a fluidity most writers could only dream of accomplishing. Though only a piece of a much larger story, this 25-episode run is a masterpiece of character development. The emotions that run through it are so pure and visceral that it has left an impression on me I have no doubt will last a lifetime. It's rare that an anime compels me to reach further, which generally implies picking up a manga. In ReZero's case, it was finding fan translations online for the web novel, which is an endless battle because I'm caught up and past Translation Chicken's excellent work. But the inherent desire to know what happens, to see where Rem, Subaru, Emilia, and all the other incredible characters end up in this amazing, ever-expanding world. The inability to wait for more of the anime because of how simply fantastic it is. The lasting emotional effect of a single scene. The deliberate, slow unraveling of characters, set pieces, plot points, background lore, environment, epic battles, and most importantly, the internal lessons and self-discovery you can find in a mere 25 episodes is why I'm telling you, you should watch ReZero, Starting Life in Another World. And if you've already seen it, let me know how it made you feel in the comments, and what did you think about my personal thoughts on love? These are just my subjective opinions, so try not to get your panties in a knot and, start a conversation instead. And while I don't consider myself a Buddhist, I do subscribe to the philosophy quite a bit, and it does tend to make other Westerners squirm a bit, something about the lack of materialism in it. I get it. Anyway, for the last 3 years, I have been working on YouTube, first for my own personal channel, and then as a part of the Treesicle team. You may have noticed some Buddhist jargon in Treesicle videos, so you're welcome. While I love making gaming content, for me, it's always been about the narrative, just like music is always about the lyrics, and stories are always about the characters. Bonsai Pop is the brainchild of all of us at Treesicle, Ryan, Tyler, Grant, and myself, and it is 100% anime, 100% of the time. So sit back, relax, hit that subscribe button and that bell, and prepare yourself for so much more of this in the future. My name is Mike, and I'll see you next time.